All right, click the link to our channel here over at SubStars. So the failure of Star Wars, it's been kind of fun to watch Disney put out, I don't know, 8 streaming shows. I think the Star Wars show, Mando's been the only one that's been successful because that little toy, the doll, they can sell Baby Yoda. So the Acolyte Star Wars is about POC, space, lesbian, witches, and for some wacky reason that doesn't appeal to the classic Star Wars audience, the customer, and it's not picking up new customers. So what's your target audience for this? Oh, black lesbians who are into Star Wars and witchcraft. Yeah, that almost doesn't exist. So where do you go from there? This just doesn't look like 77 Star Wars or even the 99 Star Wars, but this is Disney Star Wars. They took a brand that has the best name recognition on Earth and absolutely destroyed it. So congratulations, Disney, because they want to make it into something it isn't. Star Wars tone was set 50 years ago in 77. Once you go outside that original 3 trilogy, you lose your audience and you don't get the younger generations. At this point, Star Wars is almost a dead brand. In the hands of Disney, it is a dead brand. There's nothing they can do to turn this around. Mando and Ahsoka, I think, got a second season, but even with that, it kind of felt like AstroTurf. Like they had taken so many L's lately that they had to give second seasons to some of these things. But this definitely is not getting one. So the other thing is movies and pop culture. It doesn't happen in a vacuum, and a lot of the characters being pushed by Disney are not held in high regard because of the cultural events outside of the movies. People are tired of SJWs and SJW isms, and to say people have fatigue of these characters is putting it lightly, because the BLM riots have moved people strongly away from woke and into in-group preferences, where they think diversity is toxic. IRL as well as in shows, they just don't want to see it. They want to escape from it, from feminism, the big gay agenda, and diversity, all this kind of stuff. They don't want to watch a show that it's like you watch the news and you watch a show. It's just all this same far left wing agenda. People want a little, like, why did Deadpool and Wolverine do so well? Because it wasn't trying to do anything other than make a very simple action adventure movie, and they did. It's like it really was not a good movie. It was just a okay movie, but for everything else around it, because it wasn't over the top insanely woke, it's coming across like Shakespeare, and it did $1 billion. And you can pretty well juxtapose it to a bunch of family movies like all those Marvels and Borderlands and Madam Web and just a ton of other movies. Girl power or diversity pushed. Like Disney's Marvel has had probably this past 6 movies they made have, I think, lost money, and including probably the past 6 animations they made have lost money because they're pushing things that the audience just want to escape from. So those are all globalist values, and people are moving really heavily into tribalism or nationalism. So globalist movies it's not confounding news. People didn't watch the show. You can call them istophobic all you want, but it doesn't get butts in seats. These globalist movies just don't make sense because we're seeing the real life effects of these same left wing values. And I look at an image like this, and it's just like there's just way too much diversity and girl power. And I compare this to 77 Star Wars, and I see that the guy's wearing a robe, and that's the only thing that you have in common with. I talk to people on Twitter, and I go, yeah, you got to make it feel and look like the original trilogy. And they go, but that was mostly white people. Yeah, yes. I mean, why would you have a problem with that? That's what the original was selling, and they just lose their mind. They can't engage in like a calm discussion about that because they have this stimulus response where it's just this emotional need to spout these party lines and straw man you and ad hominem you with all these kind of labels of calling you istophobic, but they have a hard time engaging in discussion, which doesn't bode well for the country in general. So this Acolyte show bombed, and it's not going to get a second season. because the woke audiences that they say are out there, they didn't turn up to watch it, or it didn't get watch hours, which is one metric. But it also, Disney Plus also runs on the monthly subscription service, and why you'd subscribe to any of these Epstein Island degenerates is just absolutely, it doesn't matter if it's Netflix, Amazon, or Warner Brothers, or Disney. It's like, these are the worst people on earth. I don't even know if they're from this plane of existence. Lizard people's all I'm saying. Because woke audiences are just not watching this stuff. And the normal people, us, the Chads who are, in their minds, wearing Hugo Boss and running around Roman saluting with Mausers and Lugers, it's just like, all they have is a straw man view of their opponents. They think we're just this greatest incandescent evil because we're not on board $150 billion Disney globalist propaganda. Even saying those words is very triggering to them, but they will jump in front of that bullet to go defend Disney. It's like, what happened to you people? What happened to the left wing in general? Well, the subversion of the left, when they thought that they were the ones doing the subverting, is its own story, but not for YouTube. So we don't watch woke propaganda. We're pretty well open about this. I mean, I'm being as open and frank as I can be on YouTube. The show isn't made for right-wing based chads. It has black lesbians in it who practice witchcraft in space. And when you rank characters that appeal to a male audience of any ethnicity, those are going to be at the bottom of the list. No offense if you're a black space lesbian who practices witchcraft. But then I have to ask, I was going to say the POC audience who doesn't exist on this channel, they're not watching Star Wars. And if they were watching Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, the few times I've talked to Pox, they always say the same things. It's like, yeah, Lord of the Rings or Star Wars was fine the way it originally was. That was what people were on board with. If you change it, you're making it something else. It exists in its own universe. It's the alpha and omega. It is the canon in its own story. In the god of the story is the writer. Just make something new if you want something new. And it's like every once in a while they try that, and it doesn't sell because it's not organic. That's a big concept. The left and right hand path of organic versus astroturf stories. So the thing is with those space witches, they have nothing in common with most of the audience. They share no values, no religion, no politics. In every regard, they would hate each other in real life, and nobody wants to look at characters on a screen that they know they're not going to get along with. So why would a normal male audience watch them? I think I'm being as clear as possible that we don't value woke things. We're not hiding this opinion. So why didn't the woke crowd watch this cancer? Well, maybe there are not enough of them, or they weren't Star Wars fans in the first place. So it's kind of a situation where their online voices are giving you like a false sense of representation, where they're louder than the real numbers that actually exist, because they claim that they want all this woke crap, like the Marvels and Madam Web. It's like, those are great examples. You'd think the chicks would just run out and go watch those because of girl power and go support their globalist corporate lizard overlords, but they don't. They say one thing, but they don't actually mean it, and the majority of the customers reject it. And why would anyone think POC lesbian space witches would sell to the Star Wars crowd? That's insane, just saying that aloud, and to be in a meeting with these people when they plot this, what they want the characters to look like, and they're going, oh, we're going to have an Asian guy here, and then we'll have a white female in the background, and then there'll be a black female talking to him, and then there'll be a black female in the foreground, and like nobody in that room looks around and goes, what do you think the numbers are going to be for this? And it's just like you would get a death stare. It's like you just wouldn't be working at Disney if you were being honest about this kind of stuff. People are much more open about their preferences now as people start to become more politically incorrect and speak out against this Frankfurt School nonsense, and that's very much what it is. At this point, it's clear it's nothing more than propaganda to push globalism to people, to replace the people who made the movies what they were. The tone was set with the main characters in the original trilogy. Han, Leia, Luke, Obi-Wan. That's the story. You have to stay within that vibe. And if that means it's all white people, then that's what you have to deal with. People, that's what made it great. It wasn't some, Klaus Schwab diversity checklist, because that wouldn't have sold. So there are no African lesbian witches. If you want that sort of thing, you're going to have to make something new. That way you can sell to the black lesbian audience that is into Star Wars, which is about 1,200 people, maybe. So what they're counting on is people not saying, hey, we want white straight characters. We don't need diversity, or we don't want diversity at all. It's cancer. Or the BLT agenda, or feminism, or whatever the woke crowd is onto that month, because they'll just call you istophobic, and you go, okay, well, you got that out of the way. You called us istophobic, but the point still stands. We don't care about being called istophobic either. We just want blonde characters out of Nordic central casting and straight classic organic storylines that have been part of the human experience for thousands of years, about tribalism and ethnicity first and religion first, and that concept of the family, the extended family, is the tribe, and that's what makes organic stories. And this stuff they're selling, where's that image, is not an organic experience. You got three people who don't belong together, or the perception is they don't belong together, and the other perception is it doesn't matter if it's reality, is that when you see, you got a Chinese guy here, somebody in the background I can't see it, and then a black girl there, the perception is if I see that, it's going to be cancer. And I only say that because so far it's been like 100%, because I'm not making the movies where I could probably put some diversity in a movie and make it work. Go back and look at the original trilogy. It had Lando Calrissian in it, and it worked pretty well. Why? Because he wasn't a Mary Sue. He had a character arc where he was under pressure in the beginning in the Empire, and he had to sell out his buddy. He had to do some small evil to prevent a greater evil, but then he redeemed himself in Return of the Jedi by teaming up with his crew and rescuing him. And then at the end, he blew up the Death Star with the Falcon. So that's a character arc. That's a redemption arc, and that's signs of a good story. And like, yes, he was a black character, and he did a great job, and the writers did a great job. But that was 50 years ago. That's not what people do today. People do this kind of stuff today, where it's Daisy Ridley in 2015 Star Wars to 2019, that trilogy, where she's floating in air and she's doing backflips and she's like doing some zen pose, and she's juggling. I mean, she's like space god. Just, you made her like everything combined into one. It's like, oh, we have to make her so overpowered, over the top, because we're gonna just want to bury Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. It's like, well, but that is Star Wars, is Darth Vader and Skywalker. That is the Skywalker saga. And you just made a Mary Sue. I mean, I don't know if that's where the term Mary Sue originated from, but it's just such effing cancer. And I don't see any future for Star Wars. Marvel might used to look at Marvel and go, oh, she got in the direction of Deadpool and Wolverine. Yeah, that was a one-off. That's not going to happen. And the future of Star Wars is that Daisy Ridley has another movie coming out. I don't know when. If that bombs, that will be interesting to see what Disney does with that, because then they really do have a dead brand, because that'll be the second mainstream movie release after Solo that actually lost money. They'll be like, oh, we have to turn this around, otherwise like somebody gets like Apple is going to buy Disney or something. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.